If you bring half of what you brought in that phone call that we just did to this episode,
Okay.
we're in for a great episode.
All right. I have good
Brian is on fire.
I don't know about that.
But don't back down from some of the stuff you put in the show notes, bro.
I'm not going to. Something I've noticed being back in New York City is a lot of people hate on the West Village now. I think the West Village has become kind of like Dubai. It's a symbol of something lost because New York is not cool anymore. Manhattan is absolutely not cool anymore. And I think that's symbolized by the West Village. And it was kicked off by that New York Magazine piece about the West Village girlies. And so now it's become a meme. I don't know where it's cool anymore.
It's a good restaurant, bro.
Okay, but like, I don't know where it's cool. I assume that Bushwick is cool. I haven't been to Bushwick in like 6 years, so I don't know.
Williamsburg has great restaurants.
Williamsburg is absolutely not cool.
I know, but the food is good. I don't think Park Slope's ever been cool.
No, but that might make it cool. Like the places that are self-consciously uncool can be cool.
I think Fort Greene retains a little bit of coolness.
It is. It's a nice place. Cobble Hill, whatever.
Cobble Hill's nice.
But I think the cool places in the world, like I'm very, Vanya will like this. I'm very pro Belgrade. I think Belgrade is going to emerge as the next cool city. It's Berlin 15 years ago. It's covered in graffiti. It's a party place. Interesting people. It's got a whiff of mystery being in Eastern Europe.
Is there any cool in Miami at all?
Miami is a place that uncool people think is cool.
Mm-hmm. Is the sauna at the Standard cool?
The sauna at the Standard? I think it's cool enough. It's kind of hot. I have become a sauna guy, by the way. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm trying it out. I'm not like fully a sauna guy, but I'm trying it out. It does seem to improve sleep.
Isn't it supposed to burn fat if you do sauna and then go to the cold plunge?
Yeah. Well, the thing with sauna, what I quickly realized is sauna is popular because it gives people the benefits of working out without working out.
Perfect.
I believe it's perfect for the Ozempic age and the AI age where you don't have to work for anything. You just get the benefits without actually doing the work. How long do you
stay in for? Can you stay in for 20 minutes?
Yeah, I do 15 to 20 minutes, and then you get out and you do like a cold shower or whatever, and then you go back in for like 10 minutes.
Do you take your AirPods in?
No, I would think that they would melt.
Mm.
I'm not even sure if you should. I'm new to this. Like I wasn't sure about taking in flip-flops, but then I'm like, I don't want my feet like on that, and also those benches. Like I definitely lay down.
Are you in
towel.
full raw or are you covering up?
No, this is not Europe. There's different sauna expectations in Europe.
My friend got yelled at in Zurich the other day for wearing something into the sauna.
No, they're hardcore that you got to be completely transparent.
Mm-hmm. You can come to my sauna and wear nothing if you want.
Okay. I think I mentioned this last episode. I'm a commercial sauna person. I'm not like a home sauna guy, but that could change. As I said, Troy, I appreciate the invitation. I'm open to some things.
Well,
all right, let's get started. We got a really big
show here. I'm just here to.
We got a really big show. Welcome to People vs. Algorithms, show about detecting patterns in technology, media, culture, money. I'd like to add a real estate segment and geopolitics. Of course, it's a podcast. Troy, I know we are not going to be joined. I'm joined by Troy Young. AB is coming by. By the way, you blew up AB's identity last week. I got a note on this because you called AB by his given name. So
Linda?
Yeah, so that shtick is over.
Mm-hmm.
Alex is he's at like a video game conference. He's debuting his show. He seems his game, which is kind of like a show. He seems very energized, right?
Yeah, he's made something cool and beautiful. He's proud of it. So I'm very happy for him. But his circuit's overload with too much stimuli. So if he has that thing going on in his life means that he has very little room for other stuff.
Yeah, no, the idea of doing a podcast while at like a video game conference, I could tell that was very taxing. So I didn't.
He's
really
a single threader.
Yeah, so that's good. Anyway, he'll be back next week. AB's going to come by later. He's going to talk about his spreadsheets. He's closely monitoring the situation with AI disrupting his spreadsheets. We did get some feedback. I know you love feedback from Hearst Newspaper's Chief Product and Strategy Officer, Bridget Williams. She told me that podcast is good, but it's too broy.
Now, is it possible for us to dial down the bro, or do we just need to have a female co-host?
Hard to say. My note is that we need to talk over each other less. And yeah, I think some more feminine energy would be good. We got AB, but we gotta amp it up.
Right, maybe we.
That was a broy joke. That was a knowingly broy joke.
How great would it be to have someone regular like Feed Me Emily or something like that? Oh my God, would that be amazing? I'm
deep in negotiations with Feed Me Emily's talent team. There's multiple people. I didn't know I got roped into this. We're just talking about doing a little podcast. She's
not going to do your thing for free. She's not part of that. I was like, what about conference circuit that you do? Come on,
I didn't suggest it.
It's real talent, man.
Oh,
you got to pay up for that shit.
Oh wow. Yeah, well, this is going to be a challenge. This came up. We did a dinner Tuesday at Cove. Have you been to Cove? They do some really interesting things with cabbage. Cabbage is not something I would ever seek out.
Cabbage is as popular as Belgrade.
Yeah, no, cabbage is having its moments.
It's the new Belgrade.
Yeah, an often overlooked roughage.
If you just broil cabbage, just put it in the oven with a little oil and salt on it, it's terrific.
Yeah, totally. But this came up at this dinner quite a bit about publishers really trying to become talent organizations and the complete headache that comes along with that. If you didn't like dealing with the unions, wait till you're dealing with the talent management, with the agents. And that's a different, but I think that's inevitable. And the organizations that get ahead of this and figure out how to do deals that benefit both sides will be in a better position.
Isn't that what Vox has done by having to, manage complicated talent and building out their podcast business?
Yeah, it's taking a complicated business and it's making it even more complicated. Mm-hmm. Great news. But it probably beats being a content marketing agency on the side. One thing that came up, and I think is a sign of possibly the apocalypse as a word cell, apparently people are, this is a real phenomenon, listening to audiobooks instead of reading, which is to me, it's kind of cheating, but it's even worse. In order to listen to these audiobooks, they are then served up ambient visuals related to the story. The example given was you listen to a Harry Potter novel and then you're watching scenes of Hogwarts while the narration goes. It sort of lulls you into this passive, atmospheric, pairing. Our brains have been changed basically by the feeds and by the films.
It's funny. My daughter claimed that she read X number of books last year. And I said, how many of those were read versus audiobooks? And we got into a bit of a spat about it because I give her $100 per book she reads. And I don't allow audiobooks.
You do?
Yeah. I just want her to read more.
What are you going to pay me for this capitalism book? It's 1,300 pages.
I'll give you $100 for that one. That's a big
No, I want more. It's technical.
But she's told me she's very money oriented. So she's at 3 now. It's a good start. You know what else I did because I'm
3 books this year?
Yes. I think she's on her.
That's impressive.
I really want her to become expert AI person, finance person. I think she has to meld with the machines. I just sent her a Mac Mini and I'm I need you to set up OpenClaw. I need you to set up your own local LLM. I need you to report back and get it all going. And that's her current project.
Is to set up OpenClaw. So Meta bought Moltbook, the robot social network. I don't know. Maybe the bots are going to go and
the bots read ads, Brian.
They do. I mean, so
are they influenced by ads?
Unclear. I mean, I think that is inevitable. There's going to be agent-to-agent advertising for sure. Mm-hmm. I mean, most of the traffic is going to be majority agent.
Is the new headline.
Pretty much, yeah. I had an experience in this because we're in this weird transition period where you don't know the drama that goes on behind the scenes of this podcast, by the way, Troy.
No, I don't. No,
because
that way.
producer Vanya has been locked out of Riverside for about 6 weeks now. I had to weigh in finally with Riverside customer service. There's no number for this, of course, and I have to talk to a robot with like a human name, even though I know it's a freaking robot, and they don't like tell you it's a robot. And yeah, this is a frustrating experience. And at one point, I nearly canceled it. But then I was like, I have to get through it. And it did get resolved with the robot. And I assume that the data will end up showing that people get frustrated as a human talking to a robot. It's kind of like when you talk to someone and then all of a sudden they're like looping in my assistant or looping in my talent managers. Like, you're like, oh God, seriously? I'd like to loop in mine.
Do you get surly with the AI customer service bots? Do you ever get angry?
Yes, I do.
Because a lot of people think that like getting angry at the AI makes it more effective.
Yes, that's what Sergey Brin said. I notice what they do is they do a starts typing and then stops typing, as if I think that's to mimic like a human behavior. Like, oh, I'm going to come back hard. No, I'm going to think again. Because that's always like intimidating.
Wait till the robot starts predicting what you're going to say next.
Anyone in the boss class, like if you want to like intimidate someone in Slack, just do the like, if there's a little bit of tense like exchange, do the starts typing, stop typing, start typing, and then ghost. Just leave. Just leave for like a day or so and then come back to the conversation. You'll get your way.
Good tip. $50 tip right there from Brian Morrissey.
Add that to my wallet. The New York Times, speaking of the robots.
No, don't miss out on that Wall Street Journal story. That was funny.
Yeah, I'm going to, but like this is like, so I'm reversing this. So the New York Times did a little experiment where they put snippets of AI writing next to human writing. And the majority of the time people chose the AI writing. I think the counter to this is, and
people pick the human poetry though, right?
I don't know if they tested poetry.
Yeah, there was a poetry blurb in there.
Okay, the counter to this is that AI writing, like a lot of this AI stuff, it has real wear out because of the strange tics that it has. And in a snippet is not like, it's a very artificial kind of experiment, but there is some kind of signal there, to use some kind of AI phrase.
AI is going to do all the writing. Let's be honest.
Don't tell me that, Troy.
Well, it's fine for people. Like people are going to still write human stuff, but like for most written communication, if an AI can solve the world's most complicated challenges, cancer, complex chemistry, physics problems, math problems, all that, it can do your writing. So news organizations are going to feed information, reporting, data into AI bots that will do the writing. Like that's just going to happen. That doesn't mean that a columnist won't do the column thing, but like we had this kind of hysterical response to AIs, doing the writing before. And I think it was the wrong response.
Ben Fall was right.
Ben was right. He's always right. Always ask the arbitragers.
Yeah. The arbitragers always get to the right answer faster than, everyone else. It
works or it doesn't, man.
And that's their role in the system. They're hedgehogs, This is a
they are hedgehogs. They're sort of maggots.
Maggots. Congrats, Ben. You're right, but good news is bad news. This is going to be a cultural problem in these organizations. I was really struck by at our dinner how, and we do these Chatham House rules, so people don't have to be full of shit, by how reticent these organizations are to applying AI beyond just like basic workflow stuff and into the core product. And the core product at these organizations oftentimes is the actual content production. The Cleveland Plain Dealer had a controversy. They were smart to put it behind a paywall. The editor had said that the reporting interns would just be reporting, and then the reporting would be fed into AI, and then an editor would polish it up, which led to a lot of negative reactions to that. To me, were a little too hysterical, because anyone who's been an editor knows that a lot of reporters are not good writers. Like these are different skill sets. Some people are.
Yeah, listen, Savile Row still makes suits by hand. People love, craft. So that's going to exist forever. But, industrial production will require machines to make content.
Right. And I think your point is most writing is mediocre anyway. And it performs just
There's no
basic
premium in
function.
stitching together sentences to make a coherent paragraph. No. But you did cross out the Epstein thing on like how the elites are misspelling everything.
You're not supposed to bring people into the document. So yeah, so I don't know. Look, I'm not going to say that. We know that some Wall Street Journal editors who are listeners of this podcast. I'm not going to say that they got this story from this podcast because it's a pretty obvious one. But they did write a story about why Epstein and the billionaire class like to use terrible grammar. And it landed coincidentally where I started, which is that this is yet another sort of power move. I mean, anytime you get a group of men together in particular, it becomes a competition. That's why I think we talk over each other.
Yeah, there's also something always tribal in making language, your own, right? Like that's why we have expressions and, we shorten words and we look, we play with language. We always do that. We have little expressions, there's always something going around.
But the good part in this was how people would have to interpret what his misspellings, like on his like staff. That's a pure flex, like making people scramble to try to divine what exactly you literally mean. I mean, this is something you haven't had a boss, right? But bosses love to do this. You're scrambling to try to interpret like some sort of cryptic thing that they said and what the intent was and what is actually possible, because oftentimes it wasn't even possible or realistic because they didn't understand the details.
Yeah. But every tribe has its own language, Matt.
I think it's deeper than that. A hypothesis that was raised at my dinner that struck me as correct is that the open web bifurcates and it becomes a sort of, on one end, it becomes the sort of Penske style, mass extraction of value on a web page with horrific, just horror show of Mad Max style hyper monetization. And another more artisanal one where people have started all over again. One of the things that struck me during the discussions that went on at this dinner is how a lot of publishers are going down to like the most small level. Like they're taking this niche thing really to heart. They're doing like one was like a cookie exchange for like 300 people in Cleveland, building a little real estate tool in Texas that you sell for $60. Like it or not, this field is becoming, or this area is becoming compressed. And those who are operating the old businesses are, they're fighting with one hand tied behind their back, because I see this all the time in these dinners and gatherings we have. Everyone has to operate, not everyone, the people who have these traffic-based models are managing the decline of them while trying to build this lifeboat. Lifeboat keeps coming up, and the lifeboat is smaller.
Yeah.
That lifeboat's
it really is amazing. I think it happened in 2025 when people stopped aspiring to create websites that were beautiful and useful. And they just said, fuck it. We're just going to harvest this shit and put the players on it and, increase ad density and try to manage page yield against diminishing ad yield. And just, and be happy with, it as a declining source of revenue. And then shift efforts to, a series of other things. A lot of publishers jumped on Substack. People have increased the amount of energy they're putting into video on Instagram and YouTube and TikTok. And obviously events have grown. So there's I think it's clear that there's an abandonment from big publishers of the open web. Whenever it was, foundational, now it's secondary and harvested.
Yeah. Time, Mark Stenberg had a good story for Adweek about how Time is now 50% plus events revenue, 80% of, I guess, what they classify as their sponsorship.
Well, they have a lot of legacy subscription revenue on the print product, right? So most of the ad revenue is tied to events now.
Yeah. I mean, this is like good news, bad news. I don't know if that's good news. I mean, it is for, I believe for an asset like time, because the other, I don't know what the other path
I
is
would say
for
it's
that kind of brand.
really, really an achievement what Mark and Jess have accomplished.
That's Mark Howard, Jess Sibley. Jess has been on this podcast.
It's like the semaphore playbook, right? They still break news with their journalism. I think they're still respected. The cover still matters. It's a free model on the web. So they make some noise and then they monetize through events, and, good for them. It was, I don't know if it's the only path, but it certainly was a path, and they did it really well.
Yeah. Events are powering a lot of these businesses now. It's always when I start these gatherings by asking people what's working, and events usually come to the forefront. I mean, look, a lot of stuff is not working. I mean, so some people are talking about print being back, like not just like on a small scale, like, print's pretty profitable.
Good luck with that.
Good luck with that, indeed. Quick data point, because I think it's important to realize where the money is going. Just another confirmation. Almost 3/4 of wealth now is held by those 55 plus, right? And this is all sorts of societal implications. But I think about media, and media has always been premised on the 18 to 35 demo being the most valuable. And I know the idea is that once people hit middle age, I guess their preferences are set. I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that was the case when like Wilford Brimley was like 45 in Cocoon and looked like he was like 90. Like, I think that's changed entirely. And I believe that we will see more media. Media always gravitates to where the money is. Why do you think that it's all about like puck style models that are for the elite class? Like, rich people will always be well served by media, and old people will increasingly be well served.
News is media for old people. Plus, no one wants to watch old people have sex.
I mean, there's a market for everything. But I do think, doesn't that make sense that there'll be more media geared towards the olds?
AARP is the largest magazine in the country.
Yeah. I mean, AARP is a great business. I mean, because association businesses are really good media models. Because they are media models, basically. And AARP has like tens of millions of members.
They send you their first missives when you're like 56 and you're like, what?
No, it's
not
earlier.
old yet.
No, it's earlier than that.
Okay, 50.
They do that to troll. I think that's just a marketing strategy, because then they put someone who you don't think of as geriatric, like on the cover. They'll put like, I don't know, like Gwyneth Paltrow. So
she old now.
Time comes for us all. I don't know what to tell you. Accept it. It's better than the alternative. That's what I say.
You heard it here. You heard it here, folks.
Quick capitalism update, because I got reunited with my capitalism book. It's too big to actually travel with. It turns out that the workplace was begun mostly because the bosses, the merchants, wanted to surveil and control the workers. So the titanic battles of the return to office was not about creativity. It was about surveillance and control. This happened from the very beginning. So just a note to those of you in the cubicle class, you were right. This is about control.
And to the bosses, Brian, what do you say?
You've been exposed. You've been like, I get it.
Shop floor.
Yeah, you gotta look, the leverage is on the side of the bosses, and the cuts that we saw.
It must be difficult for you to be so conflicted these days, because you're sort of half part of the boss class and still have your roots in the worker class.
No, I have the third way, Troy, in fact, and that is being part of the free range class. I see the people.
Isn't that
like
a kind of chicken?
No, we're like out at New York Magazine did something about like in Conwell, like coffee hall. There's this like coffee hall down the financial district, like near me. And it's all filled with like laptop warriors. And so they just went around and asked people what they did and how much money they made. How much money people make is such a great way to get people to buy a subscription. People love that stuff. Like New York did one about what people make in New York. And they found the one magazine writer who was making They said 500K a year, but it was like 250K from his writing and then 250K from investments. Like, that doesn't really count.
Why not? It's fine to me.
No, I know, but like that's a different income. So like his 250K, like the headline number was 500K, right? Like, so, writers are obsessed with this idea that, they want to go back to the like $3 a word, days. So one other thing on the Iran war, I don't want to get into the war too much. It's depressing because, oh, surprise. Did you notice the girls' school, which we discussed, did end up getting blown up by the United States and our ally in Israel.
And it took the media a while to kind of circle back on that story, but they did indeed.
Yes. So I will give credit. I will say
it all came from you in this podcast.
It did not come from me. It came from X. And we're going to talk about why X is succeeding because it is the source of a lot of truth in this. And I will fully admit there because this was the assumption from the start. The playing both sides in institutional media, they were getting played by the government willingly or unwillingly.
But don't you love that on X, these unlikely heroes emerge?
Yeah, I love it. One is this Professor Zhang. So Professor Zhang is a Chinese-Canadian, maybe both, international relations analyst and professor. He is known as the Chinese Nostradamus in some circles. He has sort of exploded in popularity because he predicted that Trump would return to office. He predicted that would lead to war with Iran. And he predicted that the United States would lose that war with Iran and basically lead to the disintegration of the American empire. So Professor Zhang has exploded. He's next to like a whiteboard. He's drawing it out and he's got bangs. A very old school look about him.
But what you're saying more broadly is that Trump's losing control of the narrative on X. And he has completely
lost control
out to other media environments.
Right. And this is why Jim Vandehei, who came out with a column in Axios and Jim I appreciate that he always strongly and forcefully.
Where's Jim from, Brian?
Argues. He's from Oshkosh, Wisconsin. And so he wears that. It's like, look, I have a man of the people shtick that I try. Jim's got it from anyone from the Midwest tries to do the man of the people.
What exactly is the Piggly Wiggly?
The Piggly Wiggly is I think it's more of a Southern.
Is that a local
grocery
bar?
Store chain? No, it's a grocery store chain.
Okay.
Every region has their own classic grocery store chain. I guess in New York it would be Christie's, which is gross.
Okay, so you think that Jim's column that said no, really 10% of the population look at X, and you guys are kind of
he's like it's a bubble. Normal Americans are just working for the weekend and they're going to the coach their little league, and I get it. Okay, sure. But did
he actually say Bud Light isn't gay anymore?
No, I said that. And which was a joke, by the way.
Okay.
I'd have no idea one way or the other if it is or is not. And it doesn't matter to me. What I think this misses is, and this is, it struck me as a little disingenuous, honestly. It reminded me of the tech guys. Because obviously X has a disproportionate impact on those who are information junkies. I am an information junkie. Okay, do you know who else are information junkies? Elite people. Every cabal is run on gossip and information, but gossip particularly. And X is a raw feed. There's garbage, there's all kinds of things in there. But if you wade into the reason that elite types, the reason why hedge fund guys, the reason why politicians are in there and business figures is because this is raw information that can be used for leverage. It leads elite conversations. I will fully admit that I was wrong about Elon Musk's takeover. He has succeeded with X, and I think it's because his engineering brain saw a point of leverage. That while the product was not great, the network that he had set up, and particularly the hold it had with the information junkies, meant that it could be far more influential than any figure 15% have ever opened the app. That's my...
Okay, so cause or effect, Brian. Elon chased the libs off of X, And we thought that would be the end of it because they were the cool kids in high school, but X soldiered on. Meanwhile, it mirrors, I think, a broader trend in media that, right-wing or right-leaning media has more mindshare than ever. Was that because of X, or is that something that X is benefiting from?
I don't honestly know if it's just like right leaning. I think we always put things into like right versus left when oftentimes it's institutional versus individual. And
Or as
I think that
last week, the feral.
yeah, that's what X has like gotten like right. It's raw and it's unmediated. And again, go back to the Iran war. The positions that at least that I see generally on X are what I would have considered that left. Like it used to be that being left was being against launching wars against in the Middle East. I'm old enough to remember, John Kerry running on this and being swift voted. So I don't know what's left and what's right anymore. I do know what is an institutional point of view, which is generally to line up behind the government in times of war, is simply not reflected in my experience on X. And I look at that as pretty valuable when you're trying to figure out what the heck is going on in the world and you're thinking about all these apocalyptic scenarios that come out. Are you ready for oil at $300 a barrel? I have no idea what that means for me, but it's probably not good.
Though Trump's base is still behind him, remarkably.
Well, Trump's base is like low information voters. They're not like, they're just like, okay, yeah, own the Ayatollahs. So but I do think I think you see signs of that evaporating just for the reason that he has lost control of parts of the narrative. The sort of the manosphere is leaving him. I mean, Joe Rogan has finally woken up from his long nap after a cold plunge and has recognized that all the stuff about not getting entangled in foreign wars is not exactly coming to fruition and all, and this is the Epstein files plus this war is going to be really difficult for the White House to spin their way out of.
Totally. Agreed.
Okay. Before we get to AB, I want to talk a little bit about Barry Diller wants to own CNN. I think this would be fun. I love how billionaires don't stop working. I would retire if I was Barry, but that's probably why I'm not Barry Diller, right?
I mean, I don't think it's really work. I think that he can kind of dip in and out and be influential. And I don't think he's like clocking in at 8 a.m.
Okay. So it's just easy. It's not the grind of writing a newsletter.
There's no grind.
Or podcasting. Right?
No,
okay.
There's no
good. Look, we've talked about CNN a ton, right? And I find it kind of boring because to me, it's a decline. It's another declining media asset. And I understand why people are attracted to it.
It's caught between being a news network and an entertainment product. And it leans more to being kind of honest to its roots of being a news network. But when you listen to the roundtables on CNN, they're grating and they're like, they're just like a bad kind of viewing or entertainment product. Whereas if you watch like Gutfield, do you know that's a program on Fox hosted by Gutfield?
Vaguely.
Okay. Well, it's a bunch of misfits sitting in lounge chairs and, talking about shit. They're uniformly right-leaning, but they're not serious. They're not really serious about anything. There's a kind of entertainment quotient and an informality to it that makes it good entertainment. Someone's going to have to get their arms around CNN, realize that it's still, by virtue of its global reach and its brand and its news gathering capability and all that, is still really important, except it's a bad entertainment product. So it's hard to watch. And I think
it was harder during the Crossfire days, but
I think, Barry sees that and he wants to fix it.
Well, I wonder how you end up fixing that, because we've talked about baby news. You had shared something very interesting, this hybrid talk show / reality show that it's called Friends Keep Secrets. I watched this Ed Sheeran episode.
Did you skip around, or did you watch it?
I skipped around.
Did you watch him write a song on the show?
No, I didn't see that part.
Okay, well, it's a show. I think it's 3 episodes in. It's called Friends with Secrets. It's kind of a mashup of a reality show and podcast, I guess. They have guests. The hosts, or the permanent, is Benny Blanco, the producer, Lil Dicky from my favorite. You remember that show he did, Lil Dicky?
I didn't know any of these people other than Sheeran.
Lil Dicky's a funny, kind of neurotic Jewish guy who apparently has a small dick. And his girlfriend...
That's his shtick?
Well, that was the whole shtick of the show that he did on HBO.
I mean, whatever the market wants, you got to give the market.
Anyway, they've rigged up their house with cameras. They have people in. It largely takes place in their kitchen, and including cameras in the refrigerator, where they integrated a spot for one of those new soda companies, where basically Benny Blanco opened the fridge and said, "I can't shit. This helps me shit," and pulled out one of those. What's the new, like the Coke alternative? Those new low sugar soda.
There's like a trillion of these.
Okay.
We had like 3 kinds of soft drinks, and now we've got 3 million.
Anyway, so they integrate advertising in novel ways. They have interesting people on. It's kind of long and maybe a little boring, needs to get broken up well. But the one where they wrote the song with Ed Sheeran in real time was very, very cool. It's the last 20 minutes of the episode.
But I think this is part of, it's for the clips. I think TBPN got this right.
Sure.
You let the cameras go, and this is the idea, and good things will happen. Like, this is what the Bulwark said. Sarah Longwell, I did a podcast with her. She's the publisher of the Bulwark. And the Bulwark is a really interesting property in that, they started from never Trumpers, right? They were like the abandons of the Republican Party who were like Mitt Romney types, low energy Jeb Bush types, who are then like adrift. Building a brand around Never Trump was tough, but they kept at it, and they took off. And it was really around their talent strategy. And what she said was when they turned the cameras on. They've got Tim Miller, who's a breakout star. Jonathan Last, my father-in-law in Belgrade, is a big JVL fan. Which is interesting.
The one, that I would have actually probably put up as a candidate for good product, other than your ex-guy, the professor, would be Trackstar, which I'm a little late in coming to. This is another format on YouTube, wherein this guy, Jack Cohn, interviews all kinds of celebrities, and it's kind of a game show structure where he plays, bits of tracks. He does a lot of research before he does it. They're on the street, he's recording it, and they name the songs and talk about their connection to the song. It's really successful. Jack is an incredible host. The content is remarkably watchable. And I think recently Gus Wenner, the young Gus Wenner of Rolling Stone notoriety, his father, he's a Wenner, invested in Trackstar as his sort of inaugural investment in his new media investment company. But Trackstar is terrific. And what's more interesting, I think, Brian, is all of these things are bottom-up innovations that have made YouTube a complete juggernaut. It was this week that Moffat Nathanson kind of acknowledged YouTube's position at the top of the media world. And I thought it was really interesting. I had to go deep on YouTube to kind of appreciate it, but annual revenue of $62 billion. It's bigger than Disney and Netflix. And it's
bigger than Disney, Paramount, and Warner Brothers Discovery combined.
Well, it may be. Netflix is 40 billion in revenue. Disney 60. It's 62. But I don't know if you want to go into it, but we could do a little brief history of YouTube if that worked for you.
Of course it does, Troy. It's in our sheet that we're looking at right now.
Now that we're disclosing all of this. 20 years ago, former PayPal guys, they registered the domain on Valentine's Day. Did you know that it was originally meant to be like
what is this? Is this like an acquired segment? Go on.
It was originally a video dating site. Did you know that?
I don't have 6 hours. Can we...
No, tune in, hook up.
What, the first YouTube? Man. I remember when YouTube launched, You know what? Let me just someone wrote the history of YouTube and gives me credit for being the first person who wrote about the first ad campaign on YouTube. So that's my claim to.
Well, I don't know, Brian. I can shorten it, but there's some important things that happened along the way. But today, it's 2.5 billion users, 60 billion in revenue, 70 billion daily shorts, 10 million YouTube TV subs, and then 125 million premium subs. That includes YouTube Premium and Music, my favorite things there. It's pretty incredible. I'm going to highlight a couple of moments that really made YouTube, and you'll remember it. The first is when it grew to be like 70% of online video viewing, right? Because the guys, Chad and who were the other two guys? Chad and Steve, Chad, and Jod. They couldn't find the nip slip Super Bowl 38 video and wanted a place that they could put that. Is the story. So that was the real life problem that they were solving.
And they were over top a pizza parlor in a strip mall in San Mateo. These were different times. This was before the $100 million pre-seed.
Okay, so 3.5 million from Sequoia, best investment ever, and then this was in Google bought it almost immediately for $1.6 billion. Today, if you looked at it over its 30-year history, it's a 300x investment. And I hope the founders kept Google stock.
One of the interesting parts of that, if I could just jump in, is there was an immediate debate about what role sort of mainstream media pirated content played in that explosion. Because if you remember Lazy Sunday was a skit that was put out by SNL back when people would wait for Saturday Night Live to drop on TV. And it was one of the early sort of viral sensations. And, they didn't have YouTube hid behind DMCA. Pretty much every Silicon Valley success case is some kind of regulatory or legal arbitrage. It seems like it's like you break the law.
7 years it took to get to manage the lawsuit from Viacom, which was the $1 billion lawsuit.
Yeah. But Google the craziest thing
lawyers to clean it up, and guess what? Viacom got nothing.
I know. And the craziest thing about this is by filing that lawsuit, it drove YouTube into the arms of Google, which completely scaled it. It would have been better to have YouTube be independent and to cut a deal with them in order to people then did not look at technology platforms as replacements for media conglomerates. They were thinking that they were going to rerun the same playbook that Barry Diller used, and they were going to still content was king and all the rest of that stuff that nobody uses anymore.
Well, what ended up happening is they built Content ID. Remember that? Content ID allowed copyright holders to take their content on YouTube, and with that, they could take any advertising revenue with it. So it turned basically their adversaries into partners.
Yeah.
So Content ID was big. And then what they did critically, because YouTube had already bought or was extremely good at advertising, they had AdSense, they had DoubleClick, they had the publisher relationships, they got advertising right. They started with those little overlays at the bottom, right?
Well, they stole it from you, Troy. Let's be
That's
real.
true. They started.
I remember
with the
you used to
overlays.
be very angry about that.
They did a partner program in 2007, which started sharing revenue. They did TrueView. Do you remember TrueView? That said to advertisers, if your ads suck, people are going to skip them. That's the 5-second button that you could hit to skip the ad. They had the best data, right? And then there's a bunch of other things that happened, right? Like they did YouTube Preferred so that the top 5% of content could be advertised on because there was a bunch of uproar about it being cat videos. They then started doing subscriptions with YouTube Red, and then YouTube Live TV, which was a cable disruptor, $35. You could get ABC, NBC, CBS, right? And then the big one that happened, then they released YouTube TV. And when they did that, I was like, oh my God, this is so good, right? Infinite recording. I didn't need a cable box. I could share my cable relationship across multiple environments. It was really good. The interface was good. And then what did Neil do? Sunday Ticket. $2 billion a year, but it exploded growth on YouTube TV. Sunday Ticket was a great move, and it signaled the end of DirecTV. And then what did they, back to what we just talked about, Friends with Secrets. What happened? They moved into the living room, right? They started improving the app, and now it's 30 to 40% of my time in my living room is YouTube, because it's just better. It's just interesting. And the algorithm is so good. Do you want to hear a couple of fun facts, though? Do you remember a couple of videos? Justin Bieber, discovered on YouTube, right?
Was he?
Scooter Braun found him in like, I don't know what year it was.
Oh, yeah.
PewDiePie, remember, a video game player guy, got the first 100 million subscriptions on YouTube playing games and being foul-mouthed. And then, what was that Korean guy that did the dance? Psy?
Yeah. Gangnam Style.
Yeah, it broke the play counter with 2 billion views. Hey. Charlie Bit My Finger. They wrapped it up and sold it as an NFT. Took it off YouTube, sold it for $800,000. Yeah. And then little Ryan, the unboxing kid, Ryan's World, at 4 on YouTube, started unboxing. In 2020, he earned $29 million on his branded toys.
I would add one to the mix because it's iconic and I think it's symbolic, which is Beefy or Tillman. There's a couple of them, but the skateboarding dog, because the knock on YouTube was always that it was dogs on skateboards. And Beefy did become a star. I met Beefy. I don't mean to brag, but I did meet him one time at judging a Mashable Awards. Nice dog, deceased since. That was really the symbol. To me, that was an important moment because UGC, as we've said before, won at the end of the day. Beefy became the winner.
Well, it's true. That's a great point. And I would sum it up like this. Obviously, it represents the end of the old scarcity model in media where, limited spectrum, shelf space, gatekeepers, all that gave way to this new world. The other thing on YouTube is advertising following audience won. It wasn't just about prestige. It was about targeting and scale. YouTube proved that. The creator economy, from like the dog to being a distributed studio system, that's pretty amazing. Live is the last one. And now, YouTube is picking away at that. Didn't they just get the Academy Awards? Football, crazy shit. And it's showing that like durable positions aren't content. They're infrastructure. They don't own any content. And, they have a kind of pay-as-you-go studio system. You got to own the relationship with the consumer. And I think it now, as the world's largest and most valuable media company, it's an important story to recognize.
Yeah, AB, want to bring you in before we get on to your spreadsheets. What's the biggest weakness that you see in YouTube? I mean, it just seems like an unstoppable juggernaut at this point. Is there a bear case here?
No, I mean, the only weakness is when they show kids the bad content, but I think they're big enough. I think that's always going to happen, but I don't think there is any weakness. They have now this massive install base on traditional TVs. As Troy said, the algorithm's good. They have everyone they have the audience. I think their monetization is getting better. I don't think there is a weakness. Like there isn't like this big, there's no one that's going to catch up and get, I think they've been.
That's the point. No one's going to catch up. AB, I looked at the numbers. If you assume that YouTube is sharing some 55% of their revenue with creators, they spend more on content than anyone else. I guess maybe other than NBC spends a lot, but like they're spending like 36 billion on content.
Yeah.
Compare that to what does Amazon spend? 20 billion. Netflix spends 17 billion. Pretty incredible. They now have a system of, Comcast spent 37 billion and Disney spent 28 billion, Netflix 17 billion. But they have a better model with zero risk.
In the consumer mindset too, when you pay, because it's not YouTube, yes, they have some of this sports. Now they're paying for sports licensing. They got the Oscars, but when you pay the fee, you're like, this is to get rid of the ads. Like, I think sometimes when you pay for Netflix, you're like, my monthly fee, is it worth it? But with YouTube, the consumer sort of disconnects what they're paying for. So like the reason why someone's going to cancel YouTube is not because they don't like the content.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, it's interesting also that the competitive set for YouTube, it never had any native competitors that really were rivals. I mean, Netflix and Amazon Prime, these are very different propositions. You can't just upload video to them, right? Like, and they saw off like Veo, Daily Motion, and really there's no number two that is like YouTube. Like their competitive set is, they don't really have a direct competitor.
The closest would be TikTok.
Yeah, probably.
But TikTok hasn't managed to push people from like dopamine short content to long content, which is what YouTube does really well.
I think they have a brand problem too. All right, I want to talk about how everything is cooked. Something that I've noticed in my X addiction, anytime I open that freaking app, I'm told that something is cooked. You know, like writing is cooked. Yeah, media is always cooked. Spreadsheets are cooked.
Analysts, lawyers,
doctors are cooked. Trey, can you share a little bit about, because I think this is, I don't know whether it's permanent, but this is a great time to be a growth guy. Like, because it's not like, I think long-term it's best to be an ideas guy, but I think right now it's good to be a growth guy.
Well, I had given you an example of high leverage people. And they exist in every company. And I gave you the example of walking into a ad agency in my 20s and seeing guys putting in the hallway, and they were the creative guys, and they would make an ad a week for a bank or a government department or something, and they were considered geniuses, and they were high leverage in those organizations. The direct marketing high leverage guys were a little different. They could write long form copy to convince a bank customer to get a HELOC. Right? Like they were the guys that sold you stuff. They were measured on performance.
They were like in boiler rooms and like massive people.
Yeah, but they were, you know, all literature majors or smart guys or whatever, but they liked the kind of closed loop reward of a performance marketing business. Anyway, I was talking to one of these guys, call him one of the kind of knights of performance marketing, and their trade now is about sophisticated funnels that consumers land on from search or social ads, and they sell a consumer a product. It could be any product, could be a financial product, could be a health product, could be whatever. And they said that they had typically or traditionally been a real bottleneck in a process because they had to look at all of the things, the writing, the flow of the logic of the page, how design and words interacted, how you would measure it. And now this individual had been using a setup that I found pretty remarkable. And he was whispering or using an application called Whisper, which is a voice dictation app that apparently is really good, connected to Claude, creating funnels. And the output that he showed me was staggering. He could now create funnels from his mind to his voice to the machine to the engineering department in like 1/100th of the time that it used to take. And this is a story of he's, you know, really essential. He's a high leverage guy. They rely on his insight, his taste, his logic, his ability to understand what sells, what doesn't. And I think you're going to find more and more of that in organizations where you have these people that are kind of radically important to the business and can be leveraged intensely with technology. And I think you're probably going to see that in your world, AB.
Yeah. I mean, the throughput for that, like what makes that guy good in his role is he can test and learn and then figure out better ways to acquire whatever customers and push them through the funnel. And I think the bottleneck has always been he has ideas, but then to actualize them takes time because he has to work with other people. Now he can effectively just go so much. He doesn't have to do V1. He can just do it himself. So I think so on the Excel, you've seen this stuff on Twitter and X over the last week where people are getting into this debate about the future of Excel modeling. And someone had made a comment where it's going to move beyond Excel, which I think is true because a lot of times there is value in having simple models, but if you want to get into a business in much better detail, the reason why people are scared away typically from more detailed models is you get lost in all of the information. And so as humans, like we can't figure out the 20 different variables to move and have 10 different cases. But if you turn an Excel more into, I don't want to say app, but like it becomes something more dimensional, that is guided by AI, you can see much better outcomes when you're trying to figure out, is this investment worth it? How can we improve the business? And when you try to use ChatGPT or Claude in Excel right now, it just sort of breaks down because you basically have this machine in the background having to create secondary things to then push through Excel. And so when that first post went up on X about moving Excel into something different than everyone coming back saying, no, I don't see that happening. I actually do see that happening because it's just going to make, because the struggle with Excel today is when you create something and you pitch it to a management team or talk to operators is when you have to start making changes. And that's when analysts are staying awake until 5 a.m. in the morning and doing all these things. But if you can bring in the variables into an environment where the AI is helping you map out future returns or changes to the business downside cases, things could move much faster. And you can see in meetings, just by talking and potentially pulling that data in from like something listening and then change, like you could basically change the stuff on the fly and be able to operate with a much higher fidelity model where you're tracking a lot more variables. So that's definitely the future. I don't think it's going to make bankers work less, but you can see this future where you have something different than an Excel that has a better understanding of the business and can really push forward your thinking of how to make something better, where an investment can lose money. Like it just gets way more higher fidelity that you could necessarily track in Excel.
You know, AB, I was dismissive of the removing the typing step, but I've talked to a couple people that maintain that going from your voice to outcome is becoming a really huge part of the new process.
Yeah, I mean, Whisper.
Wait, explain that. Like, is this using this Whisper app instead of? I'm going to stand up for writing. Writing,
which isn't
people
about
love
this
talking.
Is about
talking.
input into a machine, Brian. This is about being in a meeting, discussing the inputs into a model, and just having the AI listen to you, transcribe it, put it into the machine.
Great.
In this case, this individual would write long, complex prompts to iterate on a funnel, and instead of doing that, he would just constantly dictate.
Do you know what I used like recently? So we do these private dinners. Anyone wants to do one, get in touch. And we do them under the Chatham House rule. I recorded the last one, just uploaded the transcript and took a ton of the like takeaways from there. I mean, I remembered it. I was there, right? But like, I'm not like taking notes during dinner. Incredibly useful.
Isn't that against the Chatham House concept?
No, that's the Chatham House concept is that nothing you say will be tied to a company or person.
Attributable.
Yeah,
it's not. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I don't do those like goony things like taking a photo of everyone at the dinner.
I think what's nuanced with, this is taking us in a different direction, but Whisper Sync, what's so cool about it is it takes the context of what you're saying. Because like a lot of times when you use this shit on, or the stuff on Apple and you're like, wait, it's like wrong. Whisper Sync like has an understanding of how you talk and what you're talking about and then fixes it. Because sometimes when you're recording on your iPhone in an iMessage, it like picks up the slang, but Whisper Sync just does a much better job. It's like people say, oh, Apple should just buy it. So I don't think I don't think that this gets rid of writing. I think what Troy is saying is the person he mentioned can hypothesize out loud quickly and then push it back into the machine.
Oh, yeah, no. I get it. I get it. I mean, this is why I think inevitably we're going to be recording everything and that we're going to have mass surveillance of everything. I used to roll my eyes at the privacy is dead, get over it. I do think with AI, privacy is dead and that we will have to get over it. And unfortunately, I'm not worried about someone using Whisper in like a meeting, or it's the government that I'm concerned about. And I think this Anthropic battle, I think underlying this is this surveillance. It's the mass surveillance that is going to take place. Targeted ads, the third-party cookie is not the biggest issue, as it turns out.
Really? You've finally come over to my position on this.
I think there's something underlying. So like at large financial institutions, they've been pushing back on AI adoptions because they keep saying it's compliance related. I think a lot of this stuff, even the Anthropic pushback, is more about bad actors, meaning inside a bank, if you give it access to all the data, can somebody socially engineer using the AI to access a much wider swath of information than they're supposed to have access to? So when you're in a specific group at a bank, your knowledge is limited to whatever that group does. Even within that group, they firewall stuff. And so I think part of this is not necessarily, oh, we're worried about Anthropic or OpenAI getting the data, but it's actually a young person sitting there social engineering the chat back and forth to pull up information across the bank. Because it can totally happen, right? Like and you've seen so many examples of the social engineering happening where people can basically get access to what's supposed to be gated data.
Yeah. And I think that the rate, this is maybe tangential, but the race is on to try to pin this strike on the girls' school in Iran on AI. The race is on because there's a lot of people one of the things I hear repeatedly from publishers is that adoption of AI within their companies is mostly held back from reticence of the employees and technical employees, like developers are resisting using it. I mean, one publisher talked about firing developers because they refuse to use AI to be more productive. And I think, look, there's a lot of messaging going out. You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to the person who's using AI. This is just Hunger Games stuff. This is what I believe is behind a lot of these layoffs. Is the only way that these companies are going to force people to use AI, because they have to force people to use AI, is get rid of a bunch of people and say, well, you still got to do just as much work. You're going to make more money, but you have to do even more work. And so you better figure out a way to do that with these AI tools. It's a burn the boats situation.
Yeah. I mean, there's going to have to be training too, because like you can't. Maybe a developer.
I think it's
can
not
pick
training.
It up.
I don't think it's training. It's just it's deeper. It's just a cultural thing.
People
don't want to be.
This is a problem. We're going to have to tax the AIs.
People don't want to be replaced. They understand this. People are not dumb. I don't understand why everyone thinks that people are dumb. Like, they know this is software that is replacing people.
Of course.
Yeah.
The only way that all these investments make sense is if they take over a large swath of tasks that were done by human beings. And you can sort of try to whistle past the graveyard with no, you're going to do the higher values. Okay, great. You know what?
I think the next news story, you're starting to see this where when Amazon laid the people off, and I don't think this is true, but you're seeing it on X where they said, because they basically gave everyone they fired, like they can stick around for 6 months or something. But I guess they were asking people in their last 2 weeks of official work to map out what they were doing. And they said that they were using that to effectively prompt an AI agent to do their job for them. But I think the next news story is, because everyone's corporate computer is effectively recording them, is you'll start to see companies record all these interactions, all the emails to effectively, you don't even need the human to write down what they did. They'll just be able to have that already mapped out. Like,
at my last job, we had one of those like outsourced like IT departments that was like, you need to install this software on your computer, and it's not to monitor you or anything. Nobody installed the thing. I wouldn't even get it. I was like, honestly, I don't blame you for not wanting to install it.
But most companies are a bit more rigid. It's like, it's already, you get the laptop and you get it. So I think more and more you'll start to see companies record it so when people get fired, they don't even need to ask them what they did. They just already know.
The surveillance that is going to take place on a corporate level, on a government level is going to be massive. It's going to be a tremendous societal change. I mean, just think about assuming the default assumption is going to be everything is being recorded. I mean, this is always the case with CTV. Like, visiting London like 15 years ago was always creepy for me because I'm not used to being on video constantly. And that is now going to be the norm. Everything's going to be recorded. And I guess people are going to have to either get over it or revolt.
So I want to sum up this episode, Brian.
Please do. This is like when the priest comes back after communion.
Well, Brian, you said it. X is important. You've changed your mind on this. You think Jim Vanderhei is wrong.
Takeaway section. Okay.
Yeah. That the Moffett-Nathanson report on YouTube being worth $550 billion at $62 billion in revenue, and the most valuable media company in the world, marks a moment of the kind of triumph of systems over content. That audiobooks are not books. They should not be considered as such. That the feral kind of media people on X have predicted correctly that Iran is heading for tears, and this is going to be a bad outcome. Surveillance is real. Everyone is being recorded. What else did you take away?
I think that's mostly it. I have one fun story to add before we get to good product. Speaking of the Feral, I hope he doesn't mind me blowing this up, but like when Puck was getting off the ground, they were doing their presentations to a bunch of like reporters and journalists and writers and whatnot. And they did it in like the Crosby Street Hotel. And Lachlan Cartwright, he's a favorite of mine because he's a feral character.
They were stood outside of Rupert's birthday party for 8 hours.
Yes. So he actually, they were, I guess, like pitching him or like, considering him. And so he rented a hotel room across the street and surveilled who was going in. And then when they sat down, they were like, yeah, that's all. He goes, well, I know you're like talking to this person, but this person, because I've had my telephoto lens out. They should have hired him on the spot.
He's so learning.
Let's do good product.
I've had some back problems lately. I don't know what it came from. I think it was age plus just living, not sleeping enough, skiing, hurt my back, maybe some tennis. I don't know what it is. Anyway, the things that are helping me most are the Melt soft roller. Do you ever use those?
I don't know Melt. I mean, I use foam rollers.
But the soft one from Melt, TM.
Well, that seems like an easy way out. I mean, people don't want, the whole point of foam rollers is to have like, whatever.
Well, there's hard ones and soft ones, and Melts are kind of soft and not as painful. And they really,
so that means they're not effective.
Plus I have an affiliate code for it.
Yeah.
No. Also the back peanut. Do you ever use the back peanut?
No, I don't have back problems.
The back peanut is two balls connected together that you kind of place on different parts of your spine. And it puts pressure on the left and right side, and it's been a godsend for me.
I did that full body scan, and it was like highlighting future back problems I'm going to have. It said, get ahead of this. Have you guys done
what else did they tell you? I haven't done any of the scanning stuff. Is that the full body MRI?
Yeah. It takes like 20 minutes, but it says, hey, like it highlighted something. This is there like, you probably don't feel this yet, but it's going to show up in a couple of years if you don't fix it, if you don't strengthen your back.
I don't know. Are you going to take any actions off of it?
I should. I mean, the problem is then they get you every year. You have to go. It's like thousands of dollars.
It's like I got one of those, like, there are all these preventative like blood testing you can do. And I do it. And then it'll say, oh, you have this like value in your blood that's hereditary or something. And it could lead to a terrible thing. And there's nothing you can do about it.
Do you have fatty liver?
What's that? No, I don't. Not that I know of. Is that good or bad? It sounds bad.
It's bad.
No, my liver's good. All right, let's wrap it up there.
We have to report this week.
Alex will be back next week, hopefully energized from his conference. I guess he's in sales mode. I can't imagine Alex is a salesman. Maybe.
I feel like the games industry is smart. They do like this one conference every year where everybody goes. They don't have a million conferences. I mean, they probably have a million other conferences, but this is the big one.
That sounds efficient
this week, which is good.
Doesn't sound like media.
That's it for this episode of People vs. Algorithms, where each week we uncover patterns shaping media, culture, and technology. Big thanks, as always, to our producer, Vanya Arsenov. She always makes us a little clearer and more understandable, and we appreciate her very, very much. If you're enjoying these conversations, we'd love for you to leave us a review. It helps us get the word out and keeps our community growing. Remember, you can find People vs. Algorithms on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, and now on YouTube. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you again next week.